Good evening. Excuse my appearance. It's 1 in the morning. It's been a long day. Our children was in a car accident today. They walked away. They're whole. They're okay. All three of them. The kid that hit them is okay as well. I was wondering how I'd make this announcement, and my son came and said, "Mama, gotta share my testimony video. I have to make a video to help somebody going through what I went through today, or maybe I can help somebody not go through what I went through today." And all I could do was glorify God. It's hard enough to go through a car accident, but to be 16 years old and 15 years old and already saying, "Mom, I want to share my story so I can help somebody learn what I learned today, help somebody not have to go through what I did to learn a lesson." And so I'm going to show you guys some pictures of the accident so you see the severity of it, like I said. But listen up till the very end and listen to what an amazing testimony this young man had to share for you guys tonight. May it be a blessing to you. Listen up.
Um, like I said, I'll give a little backstory here. Um, Driving to school today, like I usually do, got up a little bit earlier. Didn't want to be late again, so I drive into school, and there's a little intersection about a minute from a light that will turn us into the school, and usually no cars pull out of there. So I still always check just to make sure. And this day I got up close to the intersection and something told me to slow down, and I did. The car ahead of me sped up. I slowed down, and this car pulls out in front of me, and I push on my brake a little bit harder, so I can show the car behind me that I'm stopping, so I don't get hit from behind. And that wasn't enough. The car kept coming, so then I slammed on my brakes. But by the time I slammed on my brakes, it was too late. So I pulled the wheel over to the right, and the car still hit me, but I still did my best to minimize the damage. And airbags.
You did a good job.
I did what I
We
could.
are so proud of the job you did today, Bud, because that kid's car is total.
It was,
Your
but
car's total.
my car wasn't totaled. But since the airbags went off, it's considered that,
Right.
which is a little frustrating.
Nonetheless, it was a pretty big impact
A little bit.
for everybody involved. And we give God thanks and glory that you guys walked away with minor injuries
We
today.
did, because it could have been a lot worse than what it was. If I was
Right.
just a little bit further to the left, it could have been his car flipping or my car flipping. It could have
Right.
been if he sped up a little bit or slowed down a little bit. Like the story
Could have
been went
so different, but
complete
praise God,
opposite
it didn't.
directions than what it did today. But we reacted the way we did. God allowed me to do that. He kind of put it in my path for me to be able to react that way. Kind of more or less, he worked through me to do that. But
What makes you say that?
Because I felt as if I had control, but I didn't. I was sitting behind the steering wheel, and something less than maybe like a couple hundred feet before that little intersection, I immediately just disassociated with reality, and it was my conscience was like watching this transpire, and my subconscious took over. Like I didn't have control, but I was controlling the whole situation.
Yeah.
And I kind of thank God for that, because, like I said, it could have been a lot worse than what it was. But
It
God
gave you time to react.
But by that happening, it gave me enough time to react, because it was like everything slowed down, and it gave me enough time to process it faster, react quicker, and kind of do things a little bit at a faster pace than it usually is done. Right? And I thank God for that, because He allowed that to happen, allowed that to transpire. But the point of it all was, like my mom said, there was a lesson behind it. And I didn't know the lesson in the moment, because I'm 16 and I'm mad that my car just got totaled after the fact. I made sure everybody was okay. I was a little frustrated. Like, my birthday's coming up. My car, I just cleaned it. Like, us dudes know how that is. It's like,
Yeah. It's a normal reaction.
it's like
Everybody
my
does
child, right?
Yeah.
I take care of my car.
That's
and,
your first thing that you own in this life.
yeah, and I really cared about it. So obviously there was that frustration there that my car was just got hit. I can't fix it, can't do nothing about it. I gotta do something else, right? Gotta find a new one. But what that taught me, being frustrated about it on the way to practice today, was that a lot of people, including myself, don't just take things for granted, but they focus too much on the materialistic things. They take materialistic items and they put that in the way of where God should be. And I do it too sometimes. I've done it with my car. I put my car before God in that moment, instead of it being, God, thank you for just getting me out of that situation. It was, man, my car, right? And that it tends to happen quite often.
Yeah, it's a natural response.
And it is. But what I did was I told God after I got home, I said, God, I trust you. I trust that everything you're going to do is going to be the greater good for me. And He did. He allowed me to realize that at any moment, God can take what He wants. He can take it away. A lot of people have a misconception that God only gives and Satan takes. That's not always true. God gave you life. God can take your life.
Yeah.
Just the same thing He can do with materials. God gave you the car. God gave you the house. God gave you the money. But God can also take the money, take the house, take the car, right? Satan takes. Satan just takes. If he gives you something, for instance, you win the lottery, but he's also taking something from you. He could be taking away relationships, taking away peace. He takes away a lot of things from you by giving you something you think is good and you think is God, right? And a lot of people think, well, God, why would you do this to me? God, why would you cause me to get in an accident at 8:40 this morning when I was just trying to go to school and take this test and do my classes like every good kid tries to do, right? Why didn't this happen to somebody else? But it was because it was a reason. It was a purpose. It was to show not just me, but to show other people that there is more than just materialistic things. That God can take what He wants, when He wants, how He wants. If you don't have a purpose, what is He going to do? He's going to take you, and He's not going to have any remorse about it. If your car gets destroyed, He's not going to have remorse about it. He's going to show you, look, do you not see what I just did for you? Do you not see that this accident could have been 3 dead kids instead of the minor scrapes and bruises that you have? Instead, you have a bumped up car with an airbag and totaled this kid. This kid's car is totaled. Like when I say totaled, I mean his hood is completely shifted from opposite of his bumper. His fuel lines were leaking. His oil pan was all over the floor. Like, I mean, it was destroyed. His car was destroyed from him hitting me. My car was just, the left side had a broken headlight.
Your car's in pretty bad shape, bud.
A lot better than his.
Yes, I agree. But they're both in
and that's what most people said. Most people were like, man, there's no way. You would think a car that hit his car would have been like a truck. And it wasn't. It was my small little Bronco.
I know,
right?
And his car was so big compared to yours.
It was a Yukon XL, right? I was driving a Ford 2021 Big Bend Bronco. And people who know, they're small little SUVs. They're not big. And this kid was driving a Yukon XL. It was a massive car. And his car got more destroyed than mine, right? But that was God's grace. That was God showing us, look, do you see how this could have transpired? How it did transpire? And what I've allowed to transpire. That was God. God allowed me to see at the forefront of my mind after the math, like, I can take what I want. And who's going to stop me? Nobody. Nobody's going to stop me from taking what I want when I want. And I'm going to do it to show you a lesson. Because that's who He is. That's who God is.
But what is the biggest key is, like you said, we get attached to material things
very
without
easily.
The understanding that God can take that to get our attention.
Yes.
It's like, let me reel you in, and that's a big lesson to learn at 16. That's huge lesson, because a lot of kids your age get caught up by material things.
They do.
Get caught up by the cars,
the phones,
clothes,
the cars,
the
vapes, the clothes, the money, the people. That's another thing. That's another big thing is women. dudes get caught up in women, women get caught up in dudes.
Yes.
Again,
So-
you can consider it a materialistic item. We focus on that more than we do God.
Yes.
Right?
And
It's
so,
just a big
you know, some people might hear you and think, oh, well, why will God put you in an accident to teach
yeah.
you a lesson? And it's like, there's a purpose behind it that's greater than our understanding. But at the basic level, like you said, what a profound understanding for you to grasp that God did this in order for you to grasp that material things can be taken. It can all
Very
be taken.
easily. And
I think that the other thing too was understanding, you said earlier, is understanding that we got to be able to honor God in the taking and the giving.
Yep.
And we only want to honor him in the giving.
yeah, and that's the truth. Is a lot of people are like, thank you, God, this is why I got here was because of God. And then when it's like, well, why did it get taken away, right? Why did this get, and people automatically go to, oh, it's Satan, it's demons, it's this, it's that. But in reality, it's God trying to show you a lesson. And it's like, well, why would he put you through a car accident? It's like, that was ordained. A lot of things that happen in people's life, they're like, well, why would I ever go through that? It was going to happen one way or another, right? It was either going to be flesh and mistakes doing it or causing it, or it was going to be God's ordinance for it to happen. And that's how it's going to go. Me getting into a car accident was inevitable. It was either going to be now or it was going to be 15 years in the future. Because I did the math on the phone with my friend, and I calculated that on average, I was almost hit 1.5 times every single day for 4 months. The 4 months we've lived here, I was almost hit 1.5 times a day. That adds up to about 45 times a month, 180 times in the 4 months. It's inevitable. If I'm almost hit on average by one car, something that could have gotten me in an accident, 1.5 cars almost hit me, it's going to happen. It's inevitable for me to get in an accident, right? And it was ordained. I just was kind of like getting away with it. That was God kind of like, oh, come on, get away with it.
Well,
Right, God,
it
come
was
on.
his protection and his
It was God
right?
protecting me, but this one was okay, so I know what's going to happen here in the future, and let me stop that from happening right now. And I think that was kind of what the purpose of the accident was I can see how good of a kid he is now. I can see how good of a kid in the future he can be, but what gets in the way for him is materialistic things. And I don't always have that, right? I don't always have things like that get into my way. But it happens. It happens to everybody. It's going to happen. And some people more than others, like me. I get attached to my car. I get attached to my items that I have because I like taking care of them. It's what doesn't just bring me happiness and joy to see clean things and stuff that I love taking care of, but
that you work hard to achieve.
Exactly, that I really worked hard to have. And
there's nothing wrong with
I
that.
guarantee God was showing me that if you continue to do what you do, you're not going to be in a good place when you get older. You're going to get more attached to these materialistic items than you are going to get attached to me.
And imagine being 35
and finding that lesson out the hard way.
And God got to take your house.
Yeah.
God got to take everything from
to show
you,
you,
to teach you a lesson that He just taught you.
And again, people will be like, "Well, why would He ever do that? A lesson." These things.
In the end, it's not about here.
No, it's about what we do afterwards. And it was a weird feeling when I was in the car. I was sitting there. I was like, "Man, I can't believe I just got hit. I can't believe my car got." And then it was like, "Whatever, it happened. Now what? Now what? Now my car is totaled and destroyed. Now what happens?"
Yeah, the rationale of the situation
comes back.
Yeah.
It was after all of that transpired, and I don't feel much pain besides the bruise on my neck and the bump on my knee, and maybe a little bit of headache from the airbag. But besides that, it was. I don't know. Sometimes it's crazy to think of it like this. Like just right now, thinking about it, it seems crazy that it's like, well, this was a lesson to learn. Like God did this for a reason, right? And it sounds crazy. It's hard to see it like that, right? And I'm still having a little trouble with it, but it's something that I have to learn. And I know
you go to Him with it.
Yeah, and I will. And I know some people who may watch this, who may not watch this. Some people who watch it may take this and be like, that's a really good lesson. I need to do that. I do that often. Some people may be like, man, this fool's crazy.
Yeah.
And it is what it is.
Yeah.
This what I'm talking about is for the people who it's for, who need to hear this, who need to hear that you may get attached to materialistic items very easily. And it may take getting into an accident that shakes you up a little bit to realize, oh, this isn't as important as I thought it was.
Amen.
Right? I can always, just like the EMT guy said to me, as I was walking away, I said, man, my car. Like, it was just, I really care about my car. Like, I didn't want this to happen. Nobody did. But what's more important is that there's more cars that you can get. There's probably 30 or 40 plus on a lot you can find. Probably go to Houston or Houston, San Antonio and find, or whatever it may be. You can find it very easily. But guess what? You can't find another you. There's only one of you, and that's not easy to replicate. It doesn't happen, right? A lot of people know the fact it's like 1 in every trillion is exactly like you, right? So, and they're not even exact. They just look like you. They're a look-alike. There'll never be another me or another you, right? It's just a matter of grasping that concept of, okay, 1, my life is important, yes, and there's a lot of things I have to do in this life. But 2, I realized very quickly, in a matter of seconds, that if God wants to take your life, He'll do it. And He's not going to think about it. He's not going to be like, oh, man, these poor people that I'm taking. He's like, no purpose, you're done. Right? So
it's not no purpose.
If you have no purpose, you have no purpose anymore on the earth, God's not going to waste time. He's not going to be like, well, maybe I'll give you another year to look at. No, He's like, well, I'm looking at your lifeline right now, and I'm not seeing another purpose for you. You're coming with me, right? And it's not always, maybe that's not always the case, right? Find a purpose. That's what my mom always says. That's what I try to do. I have a lot of things in my life I want to do. It's a lot, but it's purpose. And by doing the math, I'll be done around 50. I won't really have a whole bunch to do besides the little things I still want to do, right? I'll be retired and maybe I'll start up a church, right? But there's going to be purpose for me. My careers, my jobs, the things I want to do will be done, but the real work will just be getting started. The real things that God wants me to do will just be getting started. And it's just a matter of when it starts, how it starts, and the way it starts, and what God wants me to do with it, right? And exactly. And it's not, again, this isn't just about me. This is about how the way my sister handled the situation, the way people may take this, right? People may take this, and I hopefully take it as a lesson that's like, okay, I don't want to learn like he did, right? Because I promise you,
every lesson for you isn't for
it's for someone else, yes.
But the key takeaway today or tonight is that we can't just be worshiping God in the giving.
We have to worship Him in the taking.
That was very profound for you to say, and you know who else said that in the scriptures? Job.
Yep.
And that was crazy because you've not read that verse before.
No, I haven't.
So you wouldn't know that.
Mm-mm.
But Job said, his wife said, why don't you curse God and die?
Yep.
And Job said to her, do we only worship God in the giving?
No.
How can I only worship God in the giving and not worship Him in the taking? Because God giveth and God taketh.
Another experience is baseball.
Yeah.
Back in Florida. When I was playing baseball, that was a lesson to be learned. That
kind of the same way, right?
Kind of the same way. And now I'm starting to realize now how many lessons God's given me before it took this to say, okay, I've given you enough. I've given you enough opportunities. Now what's going to really happen is going to really get you to start thinking. And I'm not going to kill you. You're not going to die. But you're going to feel it. You're going to be a little shook, and it's going to take what happened this morning to say, I'm done. Let me stop playing games. Because what happened in Florida was I couldn't play baseball. And it was just, I was so focused on why I'm not playing baseball, why I can't get this to happen. I'm never going to be able to play baseball at a collegiate level. I'll never be this, and that. But then what started to transpire was, now I'm really not getting no playing time on the baseball team. Now I'm really not having things work out the way I want them to, right? And it was just, man, I don't get it. And I tried it. Oh, God, why is this happening? God, why is it? But it wasn't from the right mindset. That's a lot. Another thing people commonly mess up is, well, they say, well, why, God, why'd you do this? It's not from the right mindset, and you can't think of it like that. You have to think of it from a clear understanding of, okay, There's a lesson to be learned from this, and I know there's a lesson to be learned from this. I don't know what the lesson is. God, I'm trusting you, 1, to give me the lesson, 2, to cover me throughout this healing, and 3, to protect me throughout whatever it is you want me to be protected by. And what a lot of things happen with people when they get back in a car for the first time, like this kid just got his license yesterday. He literally, in a span of less than 10 minutes, caused a lot of damage. In less than 10 minutes of having his license.
Yet there's a lesson for him.
Yet there's a lesson for him to learn, that paying attention is very important. That not, and if that's that's one of the lessons that we can observe from it, right?
There's a deeper
exactly.
That, yeah.
Like maybe he wasn't ready for it, right? It could have been. It could have been.
Maybe he rushed the process.
Exactly. Maybe
Who
he was
knows?
just whatever it was. That's not my lesson to learn.
That's
it's his, right?
Yes.
And what I can understand is that it took for another kid my age to realize this isn't as important as I thought it was.
Yeah.
Because the way he reacted was, dang it, I hit this other car. Are these people okay?
Yeah.
Right? And that was my initial response was, okay, is my sister okay? Okay, my sister's frozen. Let me get out of the car. Get out of the car. We're good. Let's get out of the car. And then it was, okay, let me make sure this kid's good. His door wouldn't open. The kid was just sitting there like he didn't want to move. He was just mad. So I helped him get out of the car. I pulled open the door. I was like, you good? He gets out the car. He's like, yeah, I think I'm okay. We get out of the car, and I made sure everybody was okay. Everybody stepped aside. I waited for the ambulance and stuff to get there, the EMTs to check me out. My ear was still like not ringing, but it was just foggy. Like I couldn't faint. I could hear out of it, but it was just faint sounds, right? So I just wanted to make sure I could hear out of it. So I asked the officer. The officer was on the phone. I asked my sister to make sure I could hear out of it. She whistled. I could hear just fine. And that's when I focused on my car, right? The kid didn't care about the car one bit. And that's another lesson I can take from it is to observe what other people do in a situation like that, in the hindsight. Now, obviously, you're not expected, oh, frick, my car got in an accident. What's the other guy doing?
Yeah, it's a normal reaction.
It's I just got my car cleaned. I just cleaned it. I spent 4 hours cleaning it, the inside, the outside. I'm not joking. I spent 4 hours cleaning my car to get all the bugs off on Saturday, and my car got hit. So it was another thing I just realized is a lot of hard work can go into things, but it won't always exactly. It yielded me in the moment a clean car. But what did that do to stop the car from getting hit? Nothing. Not a thing.
What did you learn from cleaning the car?
I learned that
taking care of your stuff.
Not just that, but I also learned that hard work in certain areas is good, but hard work in others is like you're gonna get something out of it now, but you're not gonna get nothing out of it in the future. Right? Like cleaning your car, you're gonna get the luxuries now and for maybe a week. But what's that going to do for you 2 weeks down the road?
In the book of Lamentation, I don't know who it is in chapter 3, but in chapter 3, he talks about the exact thing you're talking about, where he says, all of this is vanity.
Mm-hmm. It is.
All of this is vanity. 4 hours cleaning a car to total it in a few days later. It's vanity. So then you start to say, God, what could I have done with those 4 hours? That maybe I didn't spend 4 hours on the car. Maybe I only spent 1, and I spent 3 hours doing something else.
I spent the better half from 6 o'clock to 9 or 10 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock, cleaning my car. And I feel like there was nothing better I could have done because it was a Friday and I was excited. I wanted to clean my car because it was dirty.
Yeah.
And I hadn't cleaned it in a while.
And that's a good feeling.
And it was, right? But what I learned is exactly that this is vanity. That this life that we live in, if we focus on such small, minute things like my car, I just cleaned it. Like, okay, great, my birthday's is a little over a week. Oh well.
That's such a huge thing. That's a bigger thing to celebrate than the car being clean.
Life, yeah,
right?
that's a big thing, you know. Hey, I could have died.
God.
That's awesome that I didn't.
Yes.
Right? So I'm gonna take this lesson not with frustration or anger, but with a grain of salt. And again, to recap on this, it's we can't take God for granted. We can't because we do it way too often. We put materialistic things in front of Him. We put a lot of things, and that's either people, cars, money, clothes, shoes, houses, whatever it is, we put it in front of him a lot of the time. And when he gives it to us, thanks God, have a good day. But we don't praise him when he takes it away from us to teach us a lesson. It's just like when you do something stupid and your parents take your phone away or take your TV away, or they're teaching you a lesson, hey, do something bad, and then you lose this. So if you do good, then we give it back. It's the same concept. It's the exact same concept. Hey, I'm telling you not to do this. You're putting things in front of me. Like it says in the Bible, God is a forgiving yet jealous God. He is. He takes and gives. Okay, I forgive you for it. Please don't do it again.
But
right?
the beauty in it is what you said already too. Going on the same point you're speaking on right now. Is that we don't realize all the warning signs beforehand.
No.
Like you said, you lost baseball and you responded the wrong way. Why
Yep.
would you take this? Why would you take this? This is something I love. I'm passionate about. And God was like, but I'm trying to teach you something in this. And you didn't learn the lesson there.
Mm-mm.
And God weighed your future and he looked at your future and said,
How many more lessons does he have to learn before this
if
gets out
I
of
let
hand?
him go, he might lose his wife, his children, his
Yeah.
car,
Yeah.
his house,
And
and
then-
his job, his everything, if I don't teach him this now.
Now, yep,
And so you see the grace and the mercy
of God.
and what a profound revelation for you to have at 16 years old. I've never thought of things in that way. And so that you sharing that with me and me processing it like I am now, and I'm speaking on it like I've known this, but I didn't. To think of it in that profound way, I think on my own life and what I could have learned in all the ways that God has taken things from me that I could have maybe learned early and it wouldn't have to come to that.
Yep.
Right? So we see God taking things and we say, what kind of God would take? And it's like, I've been trying to teach you this
Teach you a lesson,
lesson.
but now I have to
Now I
take to show
gotta
you it.
take it because you don't get it. And where it leads is your soul's destruction.
But it also like you touched on that point of its mercy.
Yes,
It is his mercy. Because people are like, well, how is it merciful to total 2 cars? How is it merciful to cause 2 people to get bodily injuries? But again, if I don't learn a lesson that's got me, a little scrape here, a little scrape there, little headache that's going to go away in a few days,
So and I,
maybe a swollen eye, a lesson I don't learn now could cost me, like my mom said, my future. It could cost me my job. It could cost me a career in baseball. It could cost me a career in the airlines. It could cost me a career trying to be an astronaut. It could cost me like my family. I could do something dumb that gets my kids in trouble. Pray to God never to happen,
rebuke all
right?
that, Lord Jesus.
Maybe I
Never
do something
neglect
dumb
it.
and my wife does like I'm done,
Inherit
right?
it.
Again, rebuke
Yes.
it, right? But it's God saying, okay, I don't want it to get out of hand. You're a good person. You're a good kid, and it
You're my child,
happens.
and I'm going to
Exactly.
protect you, but
It
the law
happens.
came out today.
Exactly, and not just that, but it was, how can I teach him a lesson without getting him hurt the most? How can I teach him a lesson for him to really understand what transpired? And it was, all right, something that he is very adamant about not doing. I'm gonna do it because people who don't know me, I am very, very adamant on safety. I am, because I realized at a young age that death is it just rears its ugly head all the time. And the more dangerous you are, the more death wants to knock on your door.
Recklessness.
Exactly. So I care about safety, because if I'm safe, if I follow by the rules, yes, you still may get hurt, but how bad are you going to get hurt compared to someone who's reckless, right? Like if I was going 70 or 80 down that road, I would have probably been in a different situation, in a different circumstance, than if I was going the speed limit that I actually was going, right? I was doing what I was supposed to. I did everything I needed to, and I did things the way it had to be done. And in that outcome, it was me being safe and God protecting me. So God showed me, he said, well, look at him. Look at old goody two-shoes here, right? And I can see that. God smirks a little bit, he leans back in his chair, he's like, oh, this is going to be a tough lesson for him to learn, but I got to teach him somehow, right? He loves his car, absolutely admires the gift that was given to him, And I said that to my parents. I get mad every time there's a little scratch or a little dink in my car because I need this. This is what's going to get me around for the next 15, 20 years until my car is falling apart, right? And at that point, I'm going to make sure I try to keep it as clean and as nice as possible. Take care of it when it needs to be taken care of. All of it. So God was sitting there like, okay, he really loves his car. And I already tried baseball, and he really loves that. And he almost learned that lesson the hard way, but I let him get away with that one. I thought he would learn it, but he didn't. Now, I'm going to have to teach him the hard way. Something he has been trying to avoid for as long as I can remember. Since he got his license, his permit even, was an accident. Mm-hmm. And God said, well, that's what's going to happen today. This is how he's going to learn this lesson. It's going to be through this thing he's been trying not to do for the longest of times.
But you know what it was, bud? The corruption in your heart that is stirred up when things happen to the things that you care about.
Mm-hmm.
So, something that just came to my spirit was when you hit the fence and you threw everything and you were so angry and you were so...
Well, it was a different circumstance.
Yes,
The kid almost broke my nose. There was a curveball that landed in the dirt, kicked off the plate.
Baseball. I'm talking about the fence out here with the car.
I didn't punch it. I pushed it off of my car,
No,
so I didn't.
Listen to what I'm saying for a second. When you hit the fence,
I didn't hit the fence. The fence hit me.
the fence hit you. Fair enough. When the gate was closing and it hit you.
Yeah, it was an electric gate. Just so we're aware, I didn't run into a fence.
Right.
The fence was closing on my door as I was trying to drive off.
And anybody would be angry and anybody would be frustrated, but.
I didn't punch the fence. I threw my hat and broke my glasses.
And you had a really poor reaction.
I did, and I'll give that to you.
So
I did.
what I'm saying is, God looked at your heart in that moment.
Yep.
And when Dad and I was
that was another lesson to learn there too, and I just realized it.
That's what I'm saying. This is what was just put in my spirit.
Yep.
God wanted you to address that then, and you didn't.
Did it? Mm-hmm.
You took priority of the car over people's feelings, over people's emotion, over what God was trying to say. This is a poor reaction, Bershawn. I need you to stop reacting this way when bad things happen to your vehicle or to your material things.
So you do exactly what I did today. I trust what you're doing. It's okay. I know you're gonna get me through this.
Yes.
I know you're gonna fix this and
That's the
figure it
reaction
out.
he wants.
And it took to get
This
into a
level
car accident for me
you
to
grasp
realize
it.
that.
That
And
what's
people,
most important is how you treat other people when you're in a bad situation, and you learned that today.
and I did, and I
Because
was
you
proud
took
of myself.
priority over your sister and protecting her and checking on the other kid, and that's what's most important. Because every other time, that's not what you did.
No, because it was just
Every
me.
other time you were angry and frustrated and you took it out on other people.
And just for the context of it, when I got hit, the first thing I did was unbuckle my seatbelt, and my sister was screaming and yelling and fussing up a storm, and she wasn't moving. She didn't want to get out of the car. She was just frozen, just like disoriented more or less, because the pop of the airbag was ringing in her ears. She didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I said, I didn't even care about assessing me. I knew right away that the adrenaline kicked in before I got hit, and I knew right away after that adrenaline kicked in, because I've had that feeling before that, oh shoot, something's about to happen, and I knew I was gonna get in the car. I knew it right away. The second I got that feeling of something not good, I stopped singing, and I knew something was gonna happen. And the second we got hit, the airbag went off, and I kind of got hit, and when I got hit, I kind of just bounced back, and I unbuckled my seatbelt. I looked at my sister, and my sister looked at me and was like, oh my gosh, are you okay? I was like, I'm fine, you're fine, get out of the car. And she immediately was like, oh shoot, that's what we have to do, because the airbag has powder in it. The airbag has powder in it, and she has asthma, so the powder, when it kicked off the airbags, when the airbags popped to deflate, the powder went all in the car, and she was having a problem with her asthma. So if she had kept sitting in that car, she would have either passed out, fainted, or she could have died, right? So it was get out of the car, and once she was out, I climbed over the dash, I got out of the car. Once I got out of the car, I closed the door behind me, and I told her to call you, Mom. I told her to call you, and then I immediately ran to the kid in the other car because I wanted to make sure he was good. Try to react as fast as I could in case something did happen, so I could try and, because at one point, and I think, at one point I was CPR certified for Boy Scouts. I had to be. So I knew CPR in case it came to that, right? And that's not good. All right. Anyways, next thing. But no, not that. Something was put on my mind. I'll talk to you about later.
Yeah.
But I went over to the car, and the kid was just mad, frustrated, like he just got hit. He was banging on the steering wheel, screaming, cussing up a storm. And I kind of came around the door, and his door wouldn't, I could open it, but it wouldn't budge open. So I tried to pry open the door, and eventually I pried it open after bending the metal in from pulling the door so hard. The adrenaline just allowed me to do it. I pulled the door open, and the kid got out. I asked him if he was okay. I told him, get out of the car. He gets out the car because he was breathing the powder in.
Yeah.
Because he kept hitting the airbag or hitting the steering wheel. When he was doing that, he was hitting the airbag and it was pushing powder into his face. It was pushing the airbag powder.
Yeah.
And that stuff's not good to breathe in because it's a terrible. It smells like gunpowder.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it smells like
Yeah.
because it's
just a bad
it's
thing.
not.
It
It's not.
irritates your lungs too.
It's not a good thing to breathe in over a long period of time. But once the kid got out of the car, I made sure everybody was okay, and it was kind of like I said before, I went right to my car, right? And after a while,
Then you had time to.
and then I had time to react, and it was kind of like at some point I didn't get that reaction time because I tried to react to it, and I tried to react to it, but Sophia was like, no one gives a blame, that whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't even. Were you even on the phone when she said that?
She was coping the best way she could, and she was in shock. But not only that, I was so proud of you, son. You did such a great job because you went into action mode to help others, like I said earlier, and you really did right by your sister and by this young man and by yourself. You did what you were supposed to do, and I'm just proud of you. And so at the end of the day, really, I'm just thankful to God that you're okay and she's okay. And the lesson learned tonight for you, I don't know what mine is yet, and Sophia doesn't know hers, and Dad, and I don't know if this young man learned his, but what a profound message that God gave you for your processing of understanding, I need you to detach from these material things or they'll be your ruin down the road.
They will.
And so not only that, the biggest lesson or the biggest profound statement was we don't just worship God in our getting, we worship Him in our taking too. And so that was a blessing to know that God take it and He gives. And so if He's taking this, it's because He got something better lined up.
And maybe that's a freaking sweet ride.
Who knows?
Right? Who knows what it could be?
Whatever it is that God has in store, I know that it's for your good, for my good, for Sophia's good, for this.
And again, it's sometimes God's giving isn't always going to be, all right, I know I took your car away, here's a better one. Sometimes his giving may be, well, look, you got in this car accident. Your giving was the lesson you just learned. Don't do it again.
Yeah.
Right? It's like a stern mom.
Right. And that's true too, because a lot of times when we go through the lesson, then we come to God with our hands out.
Like,
now,
please, can I get something? You took it. Can I get something back?
Reward me.
And then
God,
when
it might not be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it may not always be what we want, but it's what God says we need.
And we gotta trust
and
that.
we have to trust it, because if we go to God and say, God, I know you took this away. I know it was a lesson to be learned. Can you give me something better? Can you get me something? Or we go to God with our hands out like, please, I want something else. Then that goes to show God that, well, we didn't learn that lesson. So now I need to teach it to you in a harder way. And that could always be worse. It could take you to be hospitalized with broken bones God forbid, in a bad accident, for you to get the lesson, to understand. And that's how far God will take it. God will take it all the way to the point, if He needs to kill you, come to Him, show you the lesson, exactly just like Mr. Jojo, show you, look, dum-dum, I'm trying to teach you a lesson. I tried to teach it to you 4 years ago, but you didn't learn. Here's your lesson now. Yeah. Shoot, I'm dead. Now, don't worry, I'm going to bring you back, but this is your lesson. Right. Don't do it again. And the lesson that we learn is always the hardest. And it took to lose my car to understand that it doesn't matter. Yes. It doesn't. Because let's be real, what am I going to do? Dang, let me go back to the car and fix it up. I can't.
The fact that you get to fix it, the fact that you can walk to a car and try to fix it, the fact that you're alive and breathing.
Exactly. It could have been,
Right?
dang, wish he could have walked to his car to fix it.
Right.
Wish he could go see his car. Right?
God covered you. In
And
this
God,
season.
and I know what this was.
And
It
that's
was,
what it is for everybody that's listening.
Yeah.
If you're going through it right now, know that it's not always in the giving, it's also in the taking. We
Taking.
gotta be willing to worship and glorify God.
and we have to be willing to accept it.
Yeah.
That's another thing is some people refuse that taking.
Yeah.
They don't want it to happen.
Right.
And then when God forcefully takes it, it's like we
Well,
shrivel up in a fetal position and have no other choice but to just beg.
We go against him and
Or-
say,
exactly.
what kind of God are you?
Exactly. And then it's trying to hold him to a higher standard, and it's like, well, too bad, so
I'm
sad.
God and you're not.
And you want to see something cool? Oh, I'm dead. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Now come
Now-
talk to me
now-
face to face.
Exactly. Then it's like, oh, damn, I messed up on that one, didn't I? It took you to die to learn that one? Yeah, I bet it did. Right? So it's, I said this when Titi Zoe passed. I said this, mistakes are learned one of two ways. The easy way or the hard way. And people are like, that's cliche crap. And it's true. Some mistakes are learned by exactly like it is today, and it wasn't a mistake, it was more of a lesson, because I didn't do nothing wrong. It was a lesson for me to relearn, but it was still a mistake, right? Maybe I could have done something a little bit different, like maybe I could have looked a little bit closer, a little bit earlier to see if he was going up there, and maybe I would have been able to pull off the dirt road so he didn't hit me,
No,
right?
I mean, the
Just
way it's-
again,
yeah.
listen to what I'm saying here, right? It could have been, maybe I could have done something different. I know I couldn't have. I had no reaction time because of the way I was sitting. I had zero reaction time. I was sitting literally like this, like I usually do, with my head straight. I had clear vision in both my mirrors, into my rear view, and in the street over here.
Yeah, you can't.
I couldn't do anything about it, right?
What do you do when somebody's coming at you 40 miles an hour from the side and you?
And you're going 55 this way,
Yeah.
doing the speed limit 55 the way you're supposed to be going, and then you have someone, right? It's not gonna end well,
Yeah.
right? But it's a mistake, right? And it happens, and that mistake is some mistake you can learn from, right? That was something I can learn from, better myself, and not be anxious or scared to get into another car, right? Take that lesson and use it for my future, and try to help people with it, right? Other lessons are like Titi Zoe when she passed, did stuff she shouldn't have, and it costed her life. That's a lesson you can't learn from. That's a lesson that you have to learn after you're dead, right? When you realize it after you're like, oh, I died, didn't I? And now what? And God looks at you like, well, I gave you 3 opportunities, and now you want to keep playing around. That 4th one, I'm going to let death in. You don't want it, but I'm going to open the door for it. Because you can't learn.
Well, what happens in that moment, especially with Titi Zoe, is again, God looks at your future,
Yeah.
and He sees where that path will
It's
lead.
going, and it's
And
never
if it
good.
leads to destruction of yourself and people around you, God much rather take you home for, again, grace.
Hey, another big thing. Because if He lets you, if He
If
lets
He had allowed her to continue
keep
down
doing
that
what she
path,
was doing, she could have caused so much more problems and not ended up in heaven.
Yes. And so God was
So-
like, in the end, and I think that's what we've missed, is in the end of all of this, it's about making it to heaven. And
Exactly.
if God sees that you're getting to a point where you won't, He might throw in the towel for you.
And sometimes we don't want it, right? And sometimes it's like,
We
well, I
don't
still
get
had tons to do on this earth.
God's like,
Boo-hoo!
where it was leading you, it was going
Too
to lead you
bad,
back
so
to
sad.
me.
And
So,
that's how it goes,
yeah.
right? That's sometimes how the cookie crumbles. Where
But I'm so thankful that you're able to share tonight.
I wanted to talk about it because one, it didn't just help me get it off my heart, but 2, if someone pays attention, like I told Miss Leach, my teacher, I told her about it, and she was like, I love listening to podcasts on the way to school. I will definitely try and do that. And I don't know if she's watched it, or if she is watching it, or if she looks at it, or listens to it, but it doesn't matter if you're 78 watching this, or listening to it, or if you're my age, if you're 16 going on 17, or 17 going on 18, and you're about to just start your life on your own, and you need to hear something like this. This is for everybody who needs it. Right? The people who don't need it,
Scroll on.
keep going. Don't pay any mind to this 40+ minute video, right?
But that's okay.
But the people who do need it, that's who I care about, right? I don't care about people disliking or, man, this guy sucks. This guy's stupid. God, I can't believe him.
Nobody cares.
I don't.
Yeah.
I really could care less on every level.
But it was a powerful message for me, and like I said, at 37 years old, that was very, very eye-opening to really grasp. I read it in the book of Job, but I really didn't hear it, and today I heard it.
And I think it takes like having it happen to somebody you know or having it said to you instead of read.
The way you said it was so profound. Like you just heard, when you said it to me, you could hear that it was coming from God himself.
Because it wasn't coming from me. I'll tell you that.
Well, it was definitely profound. To hear the way you broke it down was so deep and profound. I was like, that's God speaking through my son. And so it was just like so amazing. And I was so excited to hear that you wanted to share it. You know, that was one of the things that you said when you got done is, Mom, this isn't just for me. I know this can help somebody else. And I want to share this. And so it was just so profound, you know, and I'm thankful. Thank you for sharing it tonight. I think that it'll bless a lot of people.
I know.
And truly.
Took a long time to talk about it. 40+
Praise
minutes.
God for your covering and your safety.
I know.
And that you're here with us.
Took a long time to tell a 5-second story, but
it was your process.
It was.
And it was beautiful, and I was here for it. And everybody else that needs to be here for it will respect the process too.
Yep. I just thank everybody for watching, listening, trying to pay attention. Have a great rest of your nights, days, whatever it is. May God cover you throughout all the things that you do. And may your lessons not be as hard as some of what I've had to go through or some of other people's lessons. I want this to help. So thank you. Have a great rest of your day and night. God bless you.